Mama Judith and Lavina. I hopefully I pronounced that. Hey Cass, thank you for joining. It is our first show of the new year. We are about to get started. I have not been drinking, I swear. We're about to get started shortly. And this is Rob's show. This is literally Rob's brainchild, $1 million worth of game in 60 minutes. So I am not responsible for all the crazy things he says. That is my disclaimer. Okay, so we're about to get started. I'm waiting for Rob, so we will be there shortly. Happy New Year, everybody! Happy New Year! Hey, Cass, Happy New Year!
Hello, everybody.
I just gave my disclaimer. We can turn the music down now. We needed you guys that I am not responsible for what you say.
Okay, thank you.
I am not.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Hold on, let me see what we got going on here. Good evening.
He's so fancy now. He's so fancy now.
Not quite.
He is. We got these new devices, and he is so fancy now.
We're trying to get there, though. We're definitely trying to get there. So, good evening. Thank you. Welcome to another Thursday night episode of Fuck Your Feelings, the show.
Thank you.
A little clap. Today's episode is just going to be a fun episode. We're just going to be talking shit, basically.
You, mostly.
Well, me, mostly. I'm going to try to get some people to join in on me, some fellas. Last week, we had some ladies on, and they were talking about, the odyssey of being a single female, navigating these streets in 2022. And I was going to have a couple of the guy friends on and talk some trash, try to give some pointers out for the ladies and how to maybe get better results in 2022, how to maybe not make some of the same mistakes. So, essentially, it's just going to be starting out with a couple of stories that are going on around on the internet.
The internet?
Yeah, and one of them, she's sitting in the kitchen watching. Was it Love and Hip Hop?
It was the Love and Hip Hop family reunion.
Yeah, the Love and Hip Hop family reunion, right? And I'm in here, and I overhear all of the hubbub with Erica and Safari. So she starts bringing me up on what's going on and everything, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, but I kind of feel Safari, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't file for divorce to work on your relationship. That doesn't make any sense. So she's getting mad at him because she filed for divorce, which makes the man think the relationship's over. So he's out in the streets,
being a man,
coping with his trauma in the best way that he can, which is probably inflicting some trauma on some other poor unassuming female.
Oh, Jesus
But
Christ.
Hey, he's out there, and again, at the end of the day, he wants his wife. Like Kanye, I'm a fan. If it's the worst thing, I think, to be the guy that really wants to be in your relationship and have your woman leave you. You know what I mean? Like that's tough. But if it happens, I would suggest, like most things in life, if you want it, you gotta go after it.
Go get it.
Go get it. Like I can totally see the jokes of like Kanye buying the house across the street and just terrorizing them and all kind of stuff, and like.
He did buy the house across the street.
He did do that. He actually
bought the house across the street from Kim.
I'm a fan of that behavior. I'm sorry. Go get your woman, Kanye. But the topic got me being is when we started talking, one of the things that came up was like, we're going to spend a little time on this, but one thing is for certain ladies, Men do not work on relationships that we are not in. That's why we call it playing games. If you tell a man you're leaving him, mean it. Don't say that out of anger or frustration or hurt or sadness. If you really don't want that man, then leave him. But don't tell him you don't want him and expect him to do the Kanye thing, because he may go that way.
Or he may be out in the streets.
Safari way, you know what I mean? Because when you tell a man you don't want him, guess what? He believes you.
He says it's over.
He believes you. There's not much of a reason to think otherwise, you know? That's why I said men don't work in relationships that they're not in. We work on the relationships that we're in. So the whole idea, we're going to take a break and he's going to do him and I'm going to do me,
and then we're going to come back together
and he's going to have learned his lesson. No, he's going to be out in the streets doing the most because he's single. Like, a dude can be single for a week, you break up with him for a week and get back with him a week. He's looking at that like I was
single
in a relationship for a week, I was single for a week, and I was in a relationship for a week. That's how we operate. That's how we see it. You know why that is? Because men don't really look to break their commitments. Shocker. I know. That sounds crazy, but go ahead.
Well, I think that was the thing. He hit me with it today, and he was like, what women need to realize is it doesn't matter what happens. When you leave and then try to come back, that man no longer trusts you. Because he's thinking you went out into the world, saw what was out there, thought, damn, I left a good thing, is weaseling your way back. And instead of working on the relationship that you were in, you decided to go find out what was on the streets. Then he hit me with that, and if you found something better in the streets, you wouldn't be back to me. So I don't trust you. So he's like, even if a man takes you back, you're in a deficit position because he doesn't trust you. Because he was like, if you felt this badly about the relationship, you should have stayed and worked in it. And when you leave and don't come back. And I was like,
I mean, that's kind of how a man is going to look at it, though. It's there's no good way to come back once you do that. It just isn't, because and logic kind of follows
I
that.
thought that.
Again, if it was either it was better or worse, if it was better, you wouldn't come back, and if it was worse,
you're just like, oh damn.
That's why. Okay, maybe you're not that bad after all. But that man is hurt. See, that's the thing. Y'all don't think some of y'all stuff hurts us, but it does. We just don't
show your emotions in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. We were watching a segment on a show called 8 at the Table, and they were talking about emotions, and this girl was basically saying, women are more emotional and show emotion and so forth and so on. And a guy, Oliver, it was great. He pivoted and he was like, that's the problem. You women don't think that men have emotions, and we do. Just because we don't show it the same way doesn't mean we do not have emotions. And I think we often forget that. Like, Rob doesn't display his emotions in the same way that I do, but I know when something that I've done has hurt him. And trust me, I'm always trying to reconcile and be like, how can I fix this? Because it wasn't my intention, but the hurt he feels, I'm pained by it. And so I think as women, just because men don't show emotions exactly the way that we do, we shouldn't discount the fact that they do have emotions.
This is a horrible example.
Oh, Lord of mercy.
It is, but $1 million every game, I guess. This is a horrible example, but what was the incident happened back in December, right, up in Michigan? We had another one of our U.S. school shooting incidents. What's one thing in common with every school shooter in U.S. history?
They're white.
And?
Privileged.
And
white.
And?
Young.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know.
They're male.
They're men. Yeah, I get that. White men.
If women's feelings are so much stronger than men, why don't women do stuff like shoot up schools and go postal and things like that? They don't. It's just a different form of emotion, and men are horribly equipped in the modern world to deal with their emotions.
But do you think it's also because, again, we as women aren't recognizing your emotions? And if we think about it, let's talk about the black families. What happens when a little boy falls? What do you tell him? Okay, no, I just want you to answer the question. What do you tell him?
Standard operation procedure is brush yourself up, get up. It didn't hurt. Don't cry. Be tough.
Okay, where I'm going with this is usually I hear a lot of people say man up to a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old and all of that stuff. When a little girl falls, it's like, oh, my princess, and you wipe her off and you want to make sure she's okay. But when a little boy falls, so we're always giving them that message that in order to be a man, you almost have to be stoic. And that's in every culture. I'm specifically going to talk about black people. I've never raised a white child. But when I look at the black culture, being a man is being put into a little boy's mind from he's a child, when he doesn't even know how to handle his emotions. So men are not going to necessarily express it the same way. So I think it's up to us as women to give them a safe space to do so. However, again, what we as women equate as manly, emotions don't make that list. And that's the problem.
That's the other part
And that's how we get burned, by the way, as women.
Yes, and here I was gonna say here's another way that y'all get burned is y'all say you want intimacy, you crave intimacy, but you don't give them a safe space to talk to you. Like, here's another secret, ladies. Men will talk to you about shit that they would never in a million years talk to their homeboy about.
That is facts.
If he trusts you.
That is facts. You
don't know what this man be going through. And again, it's last I checked, there's no crime in having thoughts, but some of y'all are really wild out here. And just because a man might communicate a thought to you, you take that thought and just run with it, and the judgment starts, you know? He might make a comment about your friend, and it's like,
you want to sleep with her? What are you trying to say? You want to fuck her?
So now he's like a little turtle in his shell. Like, okay, I'll never compliment one of your friends again. You know, and now the list of things he's comfortable talking with you about just gets whittled away and whittled away and whittled away. And I think that's the type of shit that leads up to cheating. Because now because again, he talks about all of that stuff with the professional sex worker. Believe it.
I'm a professional sex worker. Here is the thing.
Believe it.
Kevin Samuels said something the other day, and I know a lot of ladies, like, people don't like Kevin Samuels. We actually love him. He makes good points. We don't always agree with him, but we want to say that a lot of what he says is valid. And it was interesting. He was having a conversation with women. He was saying to this woman in specific, but in general, are women giving their men the girlfriend experience? And I don't know if people know a lot about sex work, but there are women who are sex workers who literally, they will promote themselves as they give their men, their Johns, whatever you want to call them, their sugar daddies, the girlfriend experience. And the girlfriend experience is catering to his needs. She's the girl that he brings to the company events. When he walks away, she talks him up and makes him look good. All of those things, and you know, he always talks about being feminine, beautiful, and inspirational. She's all of those things. She allows him to have emotions, and she's vulnerable and emotional with him. And I think it was a lot of stuff where women are like, I don't want to show emotion. I don't want to do this. And it's like, if you're not going to show emotions to the men that you lay with at night, then who are you going to show emotions with? And that's not, like, men don't want that. So it was interesting. He was like, are women even giving their partners the girlfriend experience? And I was like, damn.
Yeah. I think there's some case of it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, a man wants to feel like he can talk to you about anything. But we're not dumb, and we learn. And when we get negative reactions for bringing up certain conversations, we avoid those conversations. We avoid those topics. We just try to pretend like, you know, that's what it is. It just becomes an elephant in the room. You don't bring it up, I won't bring it up. We're good on that. So
what would you suggest to women who want to have that relationship with their men? Because we hear a lot of women say, I want my man to be my best friend. I want my man to be my best friend. I want my man to be able to come to me with everything. How do you say, and I mean, that's what I appreciate about our relationship, because again, you know, we have this show and we have brought up some of the craziest topics, and it's because we have created a safe space for each of us to be able to bring up stuff that sometimes that's far-fetched. Like sometimes Rob's like, oh God, where are we going with this? But he's open and honest and he listens, right? We give ourselves that moment to listen. So what advice, again, because we want people to have better relationships in 2022. So this is why the first show in 2022, we're talking about this. So what is your advice to women? If you want your men to be, open with you and vulnerable with you, what should you not be doing? Maybe not what you should be doing. Maybe what you should not be doing.
I think the best way to deal with a man, especially when he's talking with you about something that he's not comfortable with, is just be quiet and let him talk. And let him talk. And then when he's gotten to a point where he's done talking, rather than try to put what your meaning of it is, ask the questions to see, like, get more meaning from him, like, to make sure that you really heard what he said, because that's a huge thing. We go through that a fair amount of times where what I say is not what she hears, and vice versa. And that has to get cleared up. What up, Dre? So my biggest advice is just listen, save the judgment, save the snickering. We're different. She's a female, I'm a male. If we looked at things the same way, we'd be the same.
And I'll add also, save the rebuttal. Yeah. I remember, I used to manage a large staff, and I used to tell them there are two ways to listen. There's listening to respond, and there's listening to understand. And I think sometimes as women, especially in a relationship, especially when we're caught up in our feelings, we are listening to respond and we're not listening to understand. So what I ended up telling my staff members is when someone is done speaking, they should clarify and they should say something to the sort of, as I understand it, and they will list as they understood the conversation. And it's basically the things that needed to be addressed, right? And if they got it right, clearly the person would say yes. And if they didn't, it was a chance for the person to clarify what they were saying. So that was the difference, because at the end of the day, I think we all want to felt heard.
Oh, yeah. And seen. And that's when you start getting into where people become inauthentic and disingenuous, is when they feel like for the sake of the relationship, that's better. And that's a crazy place to be in.
There are men who have said, to me that they lie to the woman that they love.
I think that's not uncommon way of thinking, because there's some guys that, okay, let's talk about one of those elephant in the room type of topics. You know what I mean? I would hate to be like a bisexual man in 2022 for just off of the strength of, who are you going to talk to that about?
That's a good question.
Your homeboys ain't trying to hear you. And most women is looking at you like, are you sure this is what you want? That's a bad place to be in, right? But who did that guy get to talk to? But I guarantee...
like, I don't mean to be an ass. I'm not trying to be an ass, but it's a therapist.
That's actually a good answer. Actually, it's a good answer.
No, and listen, as a bisexual woman, I feel bad for men in that situation, because I'm easily accepted. I can talk about it with my homegirls. I can talk about it with my homeboys. I can talk about it with my men. There are some. So Sorlin saying that's not true, Rob, and she's but the laughing face. Thank you to our sponsor, Sorlin Sage. Cass Forever Rising. Cass is saying nope. And so you've got the two camps, right? There are, when I consider relationships, I don't know a lot of women who are putting their hand up to say, I would openly date a bisexual man.
Okay, like, what was the show you was watching?
It was
the bald-head cat? This dude got, like, weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks into the courtship, to the point that he actually engaged. And they was in Mexico, like, on some thing and all of that, before he was like, by the way, little conversation.
So it was Love is Blind. So it was the episode. Jesus,
Okay.
Sorlin Sage, do you want to come live and talk about that? Because we have questions, girl, and I'm sure the audience has questions.
You got more game than we do.
If you can come on live and you can talk to us about that, we would love that. But we understand you may not be ready. Please let us know. And yes, Cass was right. It was, Love is Blind. It was Carlton. It was Carlton. It was Carlton, and he had to express to the woman he was now engaged to Diamond, that he was bisexual. And she responded, which I think most women would respond. It was kind of like, I need a second. It wasn't necessarily negative, but it was like, I need a moment to digest this information. Now, let me tell you something. When I tell most men I am bisexual, they ain't taking time to digest nothing, right? Eyes light up, and it's just like, I'm sure they're like counting down what women in their phone book that maybe we're gonna like. It's a very different scenario. Yes, in my traditional Jamaican family, the reaction wasn't the best. However, when it comes to men that I've dated, I don't face that barrier. So, Sorrel and Sage, I think, is very different in that regard, that clearly she has created a safe space for men to be able to share that. And so salute to you, because that says a lot that a man would even share that, because so many wouldn't. Because I don't honestly know, even as a bisexual woman, I can't say how I would react until I was in the situation. I think people are free to be themselves. I think that's fine, but I'm not sure how well the information, I'd be able to digest the information.
Like I said, I remember how y'all went in on Tank on Breakfast Club, and he just made a comment about.
The trans women, right?
Nah, he said something like, something to the effect of like, you can try to suck a,
Sorrel and Sage is gonna come on. Woo, woo!
We got a guest.
We've got this impromptu, so we doing our thing. Thank you for coming on, because we got.
That's a lot of game we about to give y'all.
We said, hey!
A whole lot of game. Hey. What's going on, lady?
So
this take over for this one.
This is our sponsor, Joanne. She is the founder of Sorrel and Sage, which is clearly, you see all the lovely things behind. So, girl, give us the tea. You dated 2 bisexual men. Give us the tea.
I did. So the first one, I was in my early 20s. We met online. There was no mention of his sexuality whatsoever. So when I met him, we met at the Eaton Center, and he took me to a place for breakfast. And as soon as I saw him, I knew. And I was like, you know what? We're going to have a good... I knew... Let me put it this way. I knew there was something...
A little extra special.
A little sweet. So we went to breakfast. Had one of the best times ever. We had because we had breakfast before my shift. I worked at Eaton's at the time. So I was supposed to start at 1, and I ran like 45 minutes over my shift. I got to work at 1:45. But we kept talking. He was just so funny and witty and intelligent, and those are the things that I really value. So then one day we got to talking about like sex, because we never really talked about it in the initial preamble. And I just asked him point blank, I'm like, I gotta ask you something. Have you ever been, like, it's the, how many women have you been with? How many men have you been with? Blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, well, have you ever been with a man? And he was like, and I was like, and then he finally said, well, not that I have, but I sometimes have a conflict with my sexuality because I find myself attracted to men, and I'm not sure what to do about it. He was from a very small town in Ontario. So, growing up in a small town where everybody knows everybody else, you can't really parade around.
Yeah, a man around.
Right? Yeah. Throwing glitter and rainbows and be like, I love both people. So that was the first.
How did you react? So that's him telling you. How did you react?
I was just like, okay. And then I said to him, I suspected.
Oh, we got questions too. Cass is kidding.
There is questions. Cass wants to know, was he a bottom or a top? Laugh out loud.
Okay, so, and then the second...
You're going to get to that? Okay.
We're going to get to that.
You know what? Those are the kinds of questions I actually expect from men, especially men who have a hard time with dealing with bisexuality in men. So I really don't appreciate comments like that. Like for me, I'm just like, does it matter? Are you a bottom or a top? Like, does it matter?
Okay,
Right?
I understand.
So
I'm
the second time was in 2011.
So recently, 10 years.
Within the last 10 years. And nothing about him set off any flags, any bells, any alarms, any whistles, anything. We were just having a conversation one day, and I just asked him, like, we were just, glass of wine, having a chat. I'm like, so have you ever been with this? Have you ever been with that? Same thing. Have you ever been with a man? And he literally stopped breathing. And I was like, you have, haven't you? Well, it was a long time ago, and so the backtracking and it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I was curious. I wanted to know, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me. The only thing I ask of you is that if we were going to pursue a relationship, that if that's what you want to do, don't like sneak off and do it. Be upfront with me. And I will tell you something else. We had such a good relationship. We talked about getting married and what that would look like. He is probably the only person in the history of man that I would have considered having an open relationship with, because I know that he was going to sleep with men and not women.
Oh,
that is, well, first off, Joanne, we know you're extremely enlightened. So
yes, we do.
To be able to, I think you come from a place of like, that's no big deal to just accept that. But look at the reaction of these fellas, and it's obviously a big deal. Like, you might have been one of the few people that ever took that admittance in a positive way. You feel what I'm saying? Normally, it's kind of like, in comes the jokes and the digs and the shade.
Well, it's the judgment. I don't even know if it's the jokes. I think it's the automatic judgment. I think it's the automatic rejection. Men on a whole don't like rejection. I think men fear rejection more than women do, to be honest. Like, hold on, give me a second, let me finish. So now you're in a space where your manhood is questioned. Right? I think as a bisexual man, and I've been in Atlanta more than enough time to tell you this image of gay men. You go to Atlanta and you go to a gay bar and you see some of the most incredible looking men you've ever seen in your life, like 6'5", 250 pounds, and they're in the gay club and you are just like, oh my God, this man is beautiful. But the idea of a bisexual or a gay man is effeminate. So for a man to reveal to a woman that he's bi, it's the judgment, and then it's the question of his masculinity. Because again, masculinity for men is tied to so many different things. And so I think for a lot of men revealing that would be the problem.
Yeah. You know what? I will admit, I surprised myself, because it didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. And at the end of the day, I value these people as friends, as lovers, as people in my life. And I always strive to have the types of people I want around me. Now, the second guy and I are still very good friends. And I think with anybody in a relationship, what they want is a safe place. And they want to be accepted, and imagine coming to someone you love, someone you cherish, and telling them something so deep about themselves.
And they reject you.
They reject you for it.
Yes.
And I mean, Cass is saying she has nothing against bisexuality, but she wouldn't want to date a bisexual man. Well, in a way, you do have something against bisexuality, because it's not, that part is not for you, right?
And I think, no, go ahead. No, I was going to say that.
While you guys figure out, I do have a question. Do you think it would have mattered if they told you right in the beginning? Like, if they had come out and said prior, because again, you'd gotten to know them as people, would it have mattered if Mr. Eaton Center online had said, just so you know, before we meet, I'm a bisexual man? Would it have mattered?
No. If I'm honest, if I think about where I was at that time, no. Because one of the things about me is that I'm always for the story. Do it for the story. I do it for the adventure. I do
Okay.
it for.
You're a journalist.
Exactly. I'm a journalist, so I'm going to deep dive right in and come out with something to tell. And I think that that piece of knowledge up front wouldn't have changed things, because he was so much fun. He was so funny. He was so sweet, and it really didn't matter to me. So.
And you know what is interesting, and I'm reading what Cass is saying, and here's the thing. I think a lot of us have dated bisexual men and we didn't know. That I am convinced
that
I have dated bisexual men and I didn't know.
Part.
Okay.
Part.
And it's not because I wouldn't have created a space for them to say, and I'm a bisexual woman, and I understand the conflict of being a bisexual woman in a very traditional home, from an island of Jamaica where bisexuality and lesbianism and gay is actually still illegal. Like, it's not, but I think, again, the fear of the potential rejection and this idea of the questioning of their masculinity. If I look back, I can think of probably 2 or 3 guys I can probably say, yeah, they were probably bisexual.
Okay.
And you're right about that. I think too, it's because being a Black person and the way Black masculinity is viewed as opposed to white masculinity, which is very, very different. There's a lot of pressure for Black men to be hyper masculine at all times. You talked earlier about manning up. We teach our boys from young.
Yep.
You're fighting the world. You have to be a soldier. You have to be a warrior. You have to have a king's mentality. All these things, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like there's so much pressure on Black men to be the blackest, malest,
biggest, baddest, everything.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The Mandingo, the king, the warrior, the soldier, the savior, all of those things. So it's a lot of pressure, and I think that Black men are just not allowed to be given a space to be soft, to be not masculine. Because I mean, think of the guys that there are guys that we all know that aren't masculine. They're not Beyonce. They're like more like, they're soft, and they like to cuddle, and they don't like sports, and they do all of the things opposite to what we have ascribed to being masculine. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's really hard in a space. And I know every time I tell, in particular, Black people that I've dated bisexual, the reaction, West Indians, I tell you, sometimes I tell them just to piss them off, because I'm like, you're ignorant, you're ignorant, but you know what? I'm going to feed you more of your ignorance, because you don't want to accept that. And it's really an open-mindedness and a human kindness at the end of the day that I think is not afforded Black men.
No.
And here's go ahead,
because there was a couple of things you guys have. I think you pointed out a couple of things that really made me think. One was, look, I think men are very equipped to deal with rejection, but rejection for who you authentically are is crushing no matter who you are.
Yeah.
So being, again, a bisexual man, and that's authentically who you are, like you're not on the fence about it, you've done your research.
Cass is taking me literally liking to cuddle. I can never be the host of this show. I'm saying, Cass, that there are things that we ascribe as masculine attributes that if a man does not display them, we think there's something wrong with him.
No, and that's facts. No, that's right. You start ticking off the list, and the reality is, which is why I said to everybody, the thing about, Rob is a big Black 6'9" man in Arizona. The thing I try to do is create a safe space for him at home, because I know when he leaves these doors, after the novelty of the height wears off, and it's how tall are you? Then it's, damn, that's a tall Black man.
This is a big Black man in my space.
Right? Yeah. And so for me, it was like, if I'm going to do anything as its woman, is to create a safe space at home that he can take all of the burdens of the outside world and be able to say to me, babe, this is what I deal with. And this is what's going on. And again, we had a conversation last night where he talked, and I swear to God, I listened probably for 30 minutes. I said 10 words. And I was like, babe, thank you for that. And we went to sleep.
Yeah,
it was his moment to say everything that was on his mind. There was no rebuttal. There was no anything. I just let him talk. I let him give those moments of silence. I didn't interject because, again, I understood the pressures of him being a Black man. And as his woman, I'm supposed to be his solace in this safe space.
Right.
And that's game for you ladies. A lot of men don't find you their safe space.
That part. So, it's the other thing too. It's like, I'm not even talking about being out in the world and then coming home and unburdening, but it's just like, I have a friend who likes to knit, and I'm not just like knitting Afghans and sweaters and hats, and the amount of shade this guy gets for liking something. They call him granny, they call him auntie, they call him all kinds of words.
I want a sweater. Like, seriously, I wish Rob knew how to knit. I would have so many sweaters in my closet.
For me, I'm just like, why are you guys always clowning him? And they're like, which guy knits? And I'm like, but look how many fashion designers are male. They're like, yeah, no, I like, and some are not. Look at Virgil Abloh.
That's what I was just thinking. I don't think Virgil had any type of prescription. But here's the. I just wanted to kind of pause, because what you guys said about this being so much more of an issue, a taboo, a burden for Black men. It's like, you guys, I don't even know if you have any idea how much that's true. I was having a conversation with her about, when I was driving Lyft back, not too long ago, and especially white golfers, they say the gayest, most craziest shit to each other. They do the gayest shit. They sexually assault each other as pranks and jokes and stuff like that. But it's that's the privilege of being a white man. It's you can say stuff
because your sexuality,
give it to me, and no one is ever going to question
is not
you.
tied to your masculinity.
Exactly. So I want to read what the real Tony Jackson says. Don't trash on us West Indian men. And we're not, because we're both West Indian women. There are many tentacles to sexuality. We like to label and place in a box, whether it is out of convenience or evolution. There are many aspects we don't understand. And you're right.
It's out of fear. It's also
that part.
Fear. It's also out of fear, because if you, how many West Indian male friends do you have? If there's a gay man around, they are instantly on their guard because they think that somebody's going to touch their butty, or somebody's going to sex them, or somebody's going to whip out his dick and try and shove it in somebody's mouth. It's like, are you serious right now? What kinds of sexually predatory inklings do you think gay men have?
But I think there's a fear of the unknown, and I think if we take a moment to actually really understand each other. Listen, when I came out to my own mother, Jamaicans and West Indians would know, she didn't cry for the American. She bawled. It was tears coming down her face. My daughter was sitting there did mommy just tell you she's dying of AIDS? What is happening? Because I do not understand. My mother lived at the end of the hallway. We left the house, went to the elevator. We could still hear my mother bawling. So I sat there and said, I'm a woman. I gave her a grandchild. I've given her so much. Imagine if I was her boy Pitney, telling her that same thing. What the reaction, and this was my mother. My father reacted very differently, but my father's always been the man who just, you are who you are, Sheba, and we accept you. My sisters are the same, but my mother was so devastated by this news. I thought, what it must feel like to be a gay man. Because a bisexual man in most people's lives is still a gay man. Right? People don't have that line for men, right? For women, it's very much you're bisexual.
Right.
For men, oh no, you're gay. That's it. There's no nothing else. And that's the problem.
What else you do? And that is, look, I'm all for a person being their authentic self. And I know as myself individually, I hate feeling like I'm being placed in somebody else's box. You know, because as a 6'9" black man who is fairly articulate, fairly knowledgeable about certain things, most people when I walk in the room expect me to be a big dummy. And that is insanely frustrating. But what
Really?
it's even more frustrating, oh yeah, is when people won't let you out of the space of being a big dummy, no matter what you do to overcome that. So I can only imagine what that's like for something as personal, honestly, as your sexuality. That I can totally see how that could be frustrating because it feels like as a black man or as a black bisexual man, you don't really get to label your own sexuality. It's like it's done for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have a number of friends in different spaces and different phases of owning or
I don't even
discovering
know how this got to be the topic, but
owning or discovering their sexuality. And it's really interesting how the people in their lives have reacted to people in this day and age saying, listen, this is who I am authentically, and this is how I plan to move forward in this world. I've reached a certain age and I don't want to have to lie or suppress a part of myself anymore. And it's amazing how many people have problems with it. And I always ask these people, how does it affect the way you traverse your daily life? It doesn't. So why can't you just let them be them? Because nobody's telling you that you as a cis hetero person is offensive or it needs to be suppressed. So why can't you just let your friend be?
So I'm gonna add on that. So imagine now, again, you've got the world who's constantly being at you, and then you go home, and the person that you're supposed to be the most vulnerable with is just like the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
And I want a lot of women to think about that, right? The world is already saying you are not enough. You can't define who you are. You deal with that. And then you come home and you lay down your head and your partner, your woman, because I find that men tend to be, again, when I open up myself, men tend to be very open. I've dated men and women. I found that dating women, it was things that men took very easily. It was like, yeah, whatever. It was a big kerfuff with them. And I thought, fuck, like, those were the most like, fuck your feelings right now. Like, this is not a big deal, but I want to express it with you because you're the person I lay down with at night. So for me, it was very difficult because I'm like, I say this to a man and it's kind of like, oh, okay, you might ask a question or two and that's it. But for women, it was this shame, this guilt, this
yeah,
whatever that was going on around it. And I'm like, I don't want to feel this in my relationship.
that's how I would extrapolate though. That's almost the opposite end of it. For a lesbian woman as a bisexual woman, she's like, no, you want to be with men.
Oh yeah, I got that. I dated two lesbians. Yes.
So for a woman
Yeah.
who only wants to be with another woman, that is not all that. I can't imagine that's a warm and fuzzy feeling that the person that you're with also desires a man. So I'm saying that would be a similar dynamic for a female with a guy. Um,
It's interesting.
I
No,
don't
I
know.
know, but you know what? I'm going to talk. The two women I was with, I did get exactly that. The issues that they had the biggest with me is, of course, when I go out, men are
They
hollering, like men are
romance.
constantly. And Joanne knows me well enough. I'm very personable. Rob knows me. I'm so personable. I go into a restaurant. I'm like chatting it up. People know me. Like, oh, I come back the next time. They're like, hey. And so I would go out to events and I'm personal and chatting it up. And they took that personality that I had as me making myself available to men. And because again, I'm bisexual and I can
Okay.
date both, it
Okay.
was like I was making myself available. But I'm like, I came with you, I leave with you. They know I'm with you. Like it's not like I'm hiding you. What the hell is the problem? And so you're right, it was this acceptance of you have a choice. You can choose not to be with me, but I'm like, I'm choosing to be with you. Why are you not focused on the fact that I'm choosing to be with you instead of the fact that I could choose not to be with you? Because if I wanted dick, I would have dick. Like it's not that hard.
I would like to interject with one more story and then I have to go. One more
Okay.
situation. And this is not my personal situation, and I'm going to tell it in such a way that I
Okay.
don't tell any names. So I have a friend who is traversing his sexuality, so to speak, and recently came out that he is not quite trans, but has definitely a propensity for dressing in women's clothing, and expressing a much more feminine side of himself.
Mm-hmm.
And it started in the house, and then expanded into outside. And he's married to a woman.
So like a RuPaul type of situation.
No, it's basically like a Kris Jenner and Bruce Jenner.
Yeah,
That's what happened with
I
them.
need something to compare it to.
closer to Bruce / Caitlyn than RuPaul, because RuPaul is just a gay man who
Yeah.
is dressing women.
Oh, okay.
This is someone who has suppressed a lot of things, and through therapy and this being 2020, he came out in like 2019, 2020, and made this revelation to a select group of friends. And there are people who refuse to talk to him or see him or even acknowledge them, I should say, because they've also changed their pronouns. So acknowledge them as their full selves. And their wife is still with them and encourages and helps them through the dressing and everything else. At first, I don't think she was, actually, I know she wasn't. She was devastated. She had been through a lot prior. She'd been married before and then met this person and thought that this was going to be her night, her tall drink of water.
That's like my Beyonce.
And they were for a while. And then imagine you're married 5 years in, and your partner turns to you and says, I have this thing that I need to do. So they're dealing with it. I think they're handling it much better now, obviously, than in the early days. But as open-minded as I am, I think that one would be a hard thing.
That's a tough. Yeah.
That one would be tough. And as their friend, they always tell me, thank you so much for being accepting of me, and thank you for understanding me. And I made it clear. I said, listen, I don't understand what you're going through. Only because I'm a cisgendered heterosexual woman. I am as straight can be. I have no desire to be anything but the Black female that I am. I don't know what it's like to feel othered in my own body, nor do I know what it feels like to have conflicting issues about my sexuality. I am strictly dickly, 100%. All day, every day, always. I'm not gonna lie, but I have, my heart goes out to them, because I cannot imagine for their partner or for themselves what that must be like. You have an idea of your happily ever after and what it's going to be, and then you turn around and this story this narrative that you've created for yourself, somebody says, yeah, you know what, fuck your feelings and that narrative. And let's throw a couple of glittery dresses and some high heels and some lipstick into this. Good luck. So
yeah.
Well, so that leads me to the question. When I promo the show, I basically say fuck couple goals. We're just two people trying to stay together. That is the question that people need to be asking each other. What does the worst look like for you? What will you do to stay together? Mad props to this wife, because she's invested her time, her energy, her heart into this man. And this man has probably done nothing but be good to her. And he is expressed to her, this is now who I am. What does it look like for her to be like, well, F your feelings, I'm out. Right? And I think that is the part that people question. When people say for better or worse, what does worse look like for you? Because we can all describe the better.
I think too, because we operate in a space of gender normatives, sexual normatives, whatever. We can't actually imagine that might be part of the worst. And I put that in quotation marks, because one person's worse is another person's, Like, you know, some people would say that their husband revealing that he's bisexual would be their worst nightmare. For me, I'm like, what's for dinner? You know, like, you guys know my daughter. When I made the revelation that my daughter was special needs, her entire cousins, the younger generation, the millennials, they were all like, okay. All my aunts weeping, wailing.
Like my mother. Like my mother.
Right. And everybody else was just like, okay. So tacos or fried chicken. Like, it was such a non-issue. So someone's worst might be another person's not so bad. So that's we have to be careful too when we talk about things that might be soul crushing and killing for some people. You know, for me, the worst would be having a partner who comes home and beats me every day, right?
And I'm saying to people, that's the question. Like, Rob and I need to talk about we met each other kind of at our worst, to be honest, right? Like, we've shown each other, like, this is what worst looks like. What are we willing to do? We talked more about the bad than we talked about the good, because the good is obvious.
The good is obvious, you're right. And I think it's important for couples to really delve into the things that they won't tolerate, the things that are, you know, the straws that break the camel's back, the things that they absolutely refuse to compromise on, and understand and know that. You guys all know my relationship situation, and there are things that this man will not compromise on. And we've been together for 4.5 years. So, you know, there are people who think that I'm crazy for staying, but, you know, you take your druthers and you weigh your pros and cons.
Amen to that.
Figure out what you can live with and figure out what you can live without. Right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yes, appreciate
Bye,
it so
Joanne. If anyone else would like to join us, yes, you would have been clicking us off. If anyone else would like to join us, then sure. But Rob's got, you know, we got a few more minutes. Rob's got some things. I'm going to get our question bowls for this week.
Oh, yes, the question bowl. You better make sure you don't expose yourself.
I know.
Like that dress is looking like it's hanging on my fingertips.
Your fingertips?
No, I'm just saying.
That's the
anyway. So we did address. Wow, that show went off the rails a little bit, but it was awesome. What's going on?
We all like when people share in their stories, because that's the thing about fuck your feelings, right? We need to change the conversation around Black relationships. That's the entire thing that we want to do. And I think these are conversations that we need to have. There is bisexuality, there is gay, there's lesbianism in our community. We sometimes like to pretend that it doesn't exist, but it does. And so a woman coming online and saying, listen, I've had this experience and how I deal with it is exactly what this show was about. Sometimes you have to fuck your feelings for other people, right? There are days where Rob has to be in a space where he's like, I need Toshiba to express exactly how she's feeling. And in that moment, I have to fuck my feelings about what she's saying and vice versa. And listen, it takes work. It's not that we're not here without feelings. Yes, we are. Sometimes our voices are elevated. Sometimes all of these things happen. But when it comes to, again, what is it that we want out of this relationship? What do you want out of your relationship, people? Do you want pretty pictures for the gram? Do you want to be people's couple goals? What do you want?
What's the purpose?
Because the purpose of a relationship is to come together, to unite, to elevate, and to stay together, and to ride this thing out to the end. And so instead of making a list of what we will not do, right? Well, I'm not going to do this. It's like, what will we do to stay together? It's so easy to err on the negative, right? And if you go into a negative space in your relationship, guess what? Your relationship is just shredded in negativity.
Yeah, and I think that's a part of transitioning out of insecurity into security is when you realize one setback, one unplanned thing. Like, look here, if you have a 15-year marriage, I would hope you wouldn't throw it away after he or she cheated once. That would seem kind of stupid.
Oh, I'm not leaving.
I'm just saying.
We already know that. Cheating is not a deal breaker for me.
That's just, but again, that's the worst for some people. It's not. It's for some others, but whatever it is, I don't think. Okay, maybe this is a better way to put it. A 15-year relationship probably shouldn't end over one incident.
But here's the thing, and I want you to hold that because I want women to think about it. Would you throw away your 15-year career for one incident at work? You are the VP of acquisitions at a company, and you have a really bad meeting where the CEO tells you some shit that you probably didn't want to hear. And in that moment, you feel hella fucking unappreciated. And you want to be like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. But usually what happens, because I've been in those situations, is you sit in that meeting and you swallow that shit. Because you remember the salary, the BMW you drive, the condo you live in, and the good life you have built. So why are we so quick and easy to throw away relationships with the person who's supposed to be the most important person in your life?
That part, I think, and that's kind of the conversation that we was having yesterday. Is I just, I get a lot of flack where she doesn't take me the way I would like her to take me, and I just kind of took some time to kind of clear the air on certain things of contrary to what you might believe, this is how I actually feel about it. This is how I actually see it. And I think it helped. Maybe not it wasn't a game changer, but we didn't need a game changer. It was just enough to make her feel a bit more appreciated. I think that should be commonplace for you if you are in a relationship, to make that other person feel wanted, to make them feel like they are important to you. That if they went on a month vacation, it wouldn't be business as usual for you, that there'd be areas where you'd be like, okay, this is not my normal way of operating, because I can't see that being a life-changing type of relationship if the fool can go on vacation for a month and you don't even notice it.
I think if I went back to Toronto for a week, I'd be getting a call from our daughter in 2 to 3 days.
Well, just off of the strength of that alone. But no, not just you. Like, then it'd be back on the phone, and I don't like on the phone. Then you'd be like, we ain't talking, because I'm like, I'm not about to sit on the phone for 2 hours. And it's just a lot. So, Oh, and one other point I did want to make though is, I get it. Life is a journey. We're all maturing. We're all growing. But it's emotional terrorism to get someone emotionally invested in you and then tell them the truth.
I'll bring her with me. That's exactly what would happen, Cass. Our daughter's already said, Mommy, if you're leaving, I'm just going to come to Toronto with you because Daddy don't know what is going on. But to Rob's point, I agree. I think one of the worst things we can do to someone else is to be in a space where they become attached to you, and 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, however long later it is, you reveal something that could potentially be devastating to that relationship. And that is why for me, even just the revelation right away that, listen, I'm a bisexual woman. I also am a woman who doesn't want any more kids. I went down the list of, if these are deal breakers, I'm gonna put them on the line right now, because I did not want to be in a space where it was like, oh, by the way, and again, not every man appreciates bisexuality. There are some men, didn't matter how old I was, who thinks that I could still push out another baby. Like, there are all of these things. So I just threw everything down because I'm like, I need you to be investing in who I am. And I agree with you. I've met, I've got people in my life that I consider emotional terrorists. So that is something I didn't want to do to someone else. And we have to be careful. Rejection sucks, but it is much better to be rejected than to put someone through what could be a lifetime of pain.
Yeah. And you just touched me on, in closing, to that dummy going around on Instagram talking about the benefits of her 36-year-old pregnancy and all of this stuff, talking about don't listen to them. Them as doctors, dummy. Like, them as medical professionals. Like, are we really at a place where our feelings can trump facts?
So
you don't have to like facts, but they still fucking facts.
to give context, there is a video going around of a woman who is holding a very young baby, and she's going around basically saying, and a bunch of Black love pages are showing it up. You know what? Don't listen to people when they say don't have a baby beyond 35. After 35, you're more mature and you're wiser, and you're so forth and so on. And listen,
Amen.
That is accurate. You know, having a baby at 21, I think I was in a different place then than I would have been at 35. However, biology has stated that as women, it is very difficult for us and the repercussions of what happens. The issue we were having with that post, and specifically me, was all of the women in the post saying, yes, girl, yes, I'm 42, I'm 45, and I'm considering having another baby. I'm this and I'm that and I'm that. And I was just like, are we not looking at biology? Just look at biology. And one, I still have to respond, but one person came back and said, well, these studies are not done on Black women. So apparently Black women, our biology is different than any other race. And somehow our wombs are magical and what it is, right? And I get there are two women here who are saying that they did it later, but I can probably say to both of them, Cass has already said it, it was probably very difficult. Having a baby at 21, 22, 25, 29 isn't the same as having a baby at 35, 39, 40, 45. Our bodies, whether we like it or not, our bodies were not meant to do that. So these are one of the moments, it's like, fuck your feelings about what it is. Facts, there you go. I almost died. Literally, and I heard the story Joanne shared with me. She literally was brought back to life.
And again, I'm not shitting on older moms at all. I think the women, that's the reason they're giving their examples, but that's just not good advice. I think that's what
because
we're really
it's based on feelings and not facts. Yes, you might feel that again at 35, 38, 39, 42, you are more equipped to be a mother. You could be absolutely correct on that. But fuck your feelings and look at facts. Feelings never trump facts. And I think that is we named the show Fuck Your Feelings for a reason. It's because there's certain things that are just fact. And it doesn't matter what we feel about it. We have to deal with the facts of the situation. And that's where we were saying to people sometimes logic has to trump feelings. And we've had that in our relationship where, again, it's like, yeah, you might feel this way, but it ain't logical. And logic is going to get us much further than your feelings. Absolutely. Because, again, we need to stop making permanent decisions on temporary feelings.
I agree wholeheartedly. Absolutely. So thanks, ladies, for sharing those situations again. I'm not trying to shit on older mothers, but just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. That's all I'm saying.
So it's question time. We have our bowl, but of course, if anybody has questions for us, feel free.
Wrapping up to
Rob.
What's the biggest financial mistake you've made? That's a very long list.
Okay, so I'm going to answer. The biggest financial mistake I made was selling my condo. So I bought my first condo when my daughter was 3, turning 4. So I was 24, 25 years old. No help from anybody. It was just me putting my monies together and buying that place. I didn't come from a place where I saw, homeowners. Like in Jamaica, I did, which was a very different life. But once I moved to Canada, that's not what I was accustomed to. So I made, a choice to sell it before I should have. I was actually leaving and I was going to go away for a while. And I didn't understand at that point that, maybe you should rent it out and all the things that were available. So I sold that place. I bought it for $167 at that time. This was 2004, 2005. I recently looked at the same place, looked it up online, and that place is over $600,000 right now. I'm a fucking idiot.
I would answer that better because I think the start of kind of where the lack of upbringing and understanding of finances really caught up to me. And again, I wound up leaving college with a degree in economics. Didn't really mean nothing, but that freshman year signing up for those credit cards and getting them. And I remember vividly being in this frame of mind of like, I got them. Like, they're going to give me $1,000 and good and damn well I'm not going to pay it back. And now here we are 40 plus years later and understanding the importance of credit. Like, again, I almost put myself in a position to never really even have a shot at outstanding credit.
This is why financial literacy in homes with our children are so very important.
Absolutely.
I thought my daughter, I don't know a thing about compounding interest, but I know interest and I know input and output. And I very much sat down with my daughter about, if you are getting this much and it's costing you this much, this is how much they're really trying to give you. Like I had to do it. And you're right. I remember the same thing. They do stalk young college students because the same thing happened with me. Freshman year of university, I went into the student lounge and there they were with their credit cards. I remember it was GM Financial for me, TD Bank. They were all there ready to go because we were 18 and ready to go, ready to give us some money. So I think financial literacy in homes are important. So that was and thank you, Joanne, for saying I wasn't an idiot. We had no idea how the market was going to inflate. So, I learned from that. I want my daughters to do better. And so with my goodness, gracious, want to you. Like you're just yawning up beside me. Jesus, Father. Okay, I've been like holding my tongue. Okay, my question. What's something that a lot of people are afraid of, but you aren't? Change. The unknown. I am in a place of changing the unknown. So I was writing my book today. Like that is one thing, my friends have always said, we give our hats off to you because you're the person who will make a decision that most of us will not make to change your life or try something new and whatever else. And like hats off to you, and then be able to bounce back if you decide on something else. So I think, life is an adventure. And I think I will ride the adventure of life out where a lot of people are scared of it. But I'm like, you know what, if I die, my obituary shouldn't say that I was the boring person. Like I should have done a lot. So.
For sure. Okay. Viewers question. Look, I told you I used to yawn during basketball games. Like there's nothing I can do about it. I just get that mode. Like I ain't get enough of my napping. What can someone do that makes them immediately unattractive to you, no matter how attractive they are physically? Let foolishness fly out their mouth. Like, look, you can be super beautiful, but dumb is unattractive. It's nothing I've ever been interested in. It's nothing I've ever been into. And it is borderline creepy because I think it almost takes effort to have a certain type of ignorance.
Oh, Cass said hers is be selfish. That's a good one.
That is a good one.
That is a good one. Mine's is a lie. I cannot stand a liar. It grates on my soul.
Okay.
Grates on my soul. My question, and then you'll do one more. I'll do one more. What's your biggest regret? God, I try not to, I'm going to give this like very Miss America answer. I try not to have regrets. I think one of my biggest regrets was selling my condo. That was one. And I think another one was not going to NYU. So my father worked for NYU and I could have gone to NYU for free, but I didn't because my mother was a single mother and I'm her only child. And I thought, you know what, maybe I shouldn't leave her. Now, on the flip side, had I gone to NYU, I would have met my daughter's father and had my daughter, and she is one of the best parts of my life. And this is why, even though it's a regret, my decision not to go gave me, the best part of my life.
Okay. If you could instantly learn a talent or skill, what would you want to know how to do?
Oh my God, I want to answer that one too.
Pilot.
Oh my God, you should learn.
Yeah, I'll work on that.
You can still learn.
It's an interesting skill. I got one good homie that he's a pilot. He's been doing it for ages. But you always see like in the movies where something happens to the pilot and they're like, can anyone fly the plane? And it's not like a car where anybody can drive the car. Usually not a lot of people raise their hand who can fly the plane. So yeah.
Oh my God, that should be one of your goals for 2022.
I think I could. I don't know if I'm gonna learn to fly a plane in a year.
No, I'm just saying, but what start?
Okay, but start.
Start.
I got you.
Start.
I might do that.
I think you should, and then we
Might
could take like a
surprise you.
private. We can do a PJ and get all the peoples on the PJs and all that stuff. I think that would be amazing. I'm gonna answer because as I was walking my daughter home today, I actually was telling her about this question. Mine would be to speak multiple languages because I think there is a benefit. I would want to speak French, Spanish, Italian, Mandarin, and Arabic.
Danny went through 4th grade to a tri-language academy.
I know, she was saying. And so this year, one of the things that our 12-year-old, her and I are on a mission to learn at least one language fairly fluently. So I know some French, so I'm going to continue like learning better French, and then I'm going to add Spanish to it. And then I know I want her to learn Mandarin. And I was telling her that I know I want her to learn actually Arabic. I said there's a value to her in the business world, and there's value to her being somebody's wife if she knows multiple language. So a man who's in the business world, if he's got a wife who knows multiple language, it's a benefit to them. So I'm making sure that, again, as we travel, we're thinking about moving to different countries. Rob's in finance, so finance jobs are in Dubai. I'd love to be able to really be a part of that culture.
I'm with that. I'm always traveling and living other places. Just remixing the basketball stuff.
This one's
your
fine.
question. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Wow, Josh Cass says she's coming. Yes. When he gets his pilot license, we got to get a PJ because I am tired, of these commercial planes.
Not as expensive as you would think either.
What do you want to be more like, or who do you look up to the most? Actually, the question is, who do you want to be more like, or who do you look up to the most? Who do I look up to the most? She's not online right now, but my best friend Odelia. I think she is one of the most incredible women I have met in my life, and her presence in my life has allowed me to grow. So definitely her. I'm going to give a special shout out to Joanne, who was on earlier, because in the length of our friendship, I have done so much. That is it incredible when you meet the right people. And I also say my sister, Michelle. She's my eldest sister, and she helped to raise me. And so she'll always have a special place in my heart. We can do one more.
Oh, okay.
And then Dubai, yes, I agree. Like, Dubai is on my bucket list. Rob, because of basketball, has traveled so much and lived so many different places. So, traveling is something that I want us to do, especially once all these COVID restrictions shut down, because, again, his experience having played basketball internationally will help me to experience different places in Europe very differently than if I went alone.
What's our greatest strength as a couple?
Oh, good question.
Again,
I did that.
The show, the fact that we can not let feelings drive the narrative of our relationship, and we're able to actually unpack and deal with the under stuff. What's really going on? Because feelings come from all over the place.
That's fact. My feelings go through all kinds of periods once a month with the damn
she gets
period.
mad at me a lot, man. Like,
I do not get mad at you.
No,
I get annoyed.
I
get annoyed with him a lot. I do not get mad because
it comes off as.
Listen, when you say mad, people think screaming and yelling and all kinds of things. So I do not get mad at him.
Teeth smacking.
Annoyed.
Yeah.
Annoyed because you are annoying.
And you're not.
No, not as much as you. Because you are annoying. That's why I get annoyed. Okay. Final question, okay? What questions should partners ask themselves before getting married? Oh, you guys get up every morning and choose each other regardless of the shit that's going on. That we freaking do. And that was a part of our relationship contract.
I think I'm better at it. I don't think she chooses me till like 12 o'clock. I'm just saying. Like 8, 9, 10, 11. She's still thinking about it.
You know what? Don't do me like that. Because
oh, shit.
That's what you get. This man said I don't choose him. That might be accurate. Okay. But you weren't supposed to.
She chooses me after lunch, y'all.
I'm also hungry, and you're annoying. So back to my question. What questions should partners ask themselves before getting married? If you were not on earlier when we were speaking to our sponsor, Sorlin Sage, aka Joanne, I said, what does their worst look like? What is the worst possible scenario that could happen in their marriage or their relationship? Again, when the pastor says for better or for worse, I've watched, women actually change that and say for better or for better. I think it's a bull crap. I would never do that to Rob, because I would hope that, God forbid, I was at my worst and you needed to help me walk again, or needed to feed me, or needed to wipe my ass, that he would be there. And so we need to really consider what does the worst scenario look like? Because again, if you have that in your mind, there's certain things that we can't help, but there's certain things that are within our control. So your partner understanding what it is that you can withstand in the relationship is important. Again, a lot of the times we are making, again, permanent decisions on temporary feelings. But if we cut and say, fuck the feelings, what does this look like? Like Rob and I have talked about cheating. Cheating is not a deal breaker for me. Rob cheating on me isn't going to have me packing my bags, but disrespect is a deal breaker.
And you know what else I was
saying? I mean, a disrespectful cheater would absolutely be terrible.
But here's another one. It's like, I think, well, but don't get that twisted. I could deal with her cheating on somebody. I couldn't deal with her choosing somebody. Ooh. There's a big, huge difference. I think y'all get that messed up sometimes. Like, the nigga cheated. He didn't choose the other woman, and you left him. Ooh. That's on you.
Ooh. 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 No, we gotta unpack that. We can't go. You just dropped a bomb. So we gotta, okay. So women, so what you're saying to the ladies is, you find out your man is cheating or cheated, because it doesn't mean, like, cheating is something very different. Cheated is something it's, you know what I'm saying? There's the long-term cheating, and there's a man that cheated. Went out, had a little fling, got his dick sucked, whatever the case might be, but he came home to you, called it a day. So you're saying for a lot of women, they're finding that out, and their response is if the man chose the other woman when he still came back to you.
Mm-hmm. Like, she's clearly on the periphery of his life. He put it like this: when you find out about her and you say leave her alone, he'll do that. That's cheating. Choosing is when you find out about her and he packs his bag and goes and stays at her apartment.
That's choosing.
Yeah. They're very different. So figure out which one he did first.
Oh, Sorlin Sage, Joanne said, damn. But that you hit us with some big last bit. That is a good one. So again, it goes back to what does your worst look like? Because my worst is never going to be that Rob cheated on me. Like, I'm not throwing away a relationship for what was a momentary. But if a woman came knocking on this door and she had a baby on her hip that looked like a little Stevenson, oh no, my ass is help, because that's complete disrespect to me. Like, you went ahead and disrespected our relationship and made decisions that were so selfish. You didn't think about the impact of everybody in this home. Because not only would I be disappointed, our daughter would be disappointed, both of them. Mm-hmm. Because again, I have my biological daughter and his biological daughter. They would both be disappointed. So you would have made a decision that was so selfish that you did not think about the risk that you put your family at. I think that's what women have to think about. How much risk is your relationship at? Again, Stevenson is my mom's maiden name. That's so funny. That they've got to put your whole government name out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, be careful now. We know them stalkers be out there.
That's okay. They already stalked him. So thank you, everybody. Especially thank you to our sponsor, Sorlin Sage, Joanne, who makes skincare for the sensitive soul. Please make sure you go and check out their Instagram. Shop Sorlin Sage CA, shop Sorlin Sage CA, or go to shopsorlinsage.com. Sorry, Instagram is Sorlin Sage CA. Website is shopsorlinsage.com. Again, I've been using their tip to toe everything oil, and oh my God, it has helped Rob's eczema amazingly.
I'm from Rochester, so I'm not too far. No.
They got no Jamaican lineage in you?
I don't know.
No, you're not a Jamaican lineage in you. Trust me, you wouldn't be so damn annoying. Again, he tells it as he tells it. What do you say?
Ridiculously annoying.
There's the Jamaican way and the stupid way, so that is what it is. So,
which is annoying.
So thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. Please, again, if you want to come on, hit us up in our DM. We will have you as a guest. There, Duke, thank you. Duke says that he's been using the braid oil. Bro. We saw your commercial. It was amazing. Nice. Again, Sterling Sage, Black owned. The owner, Joanne, was on earlier. She makes every single product by hand. She puts it together and she tested on her own skin. And as I've said before, she's allergic to everything and the sun. So if it works on her skin, it will definitely work on yours. So make sure you check out Sterling Sage. Amazing. So thank you. Good night. Sayonara.
Long show. Man, all over the place.
Bye. Bye. I don't know how to click this off, so I'm just going to wait. There we go.